Did pirates sing sea shanties? Sea shanties were popularized as a staple of pirate culture back in 2014, with the release of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. Nowadays they also appear in games like Sea of Thieves. However, these games are far from historically accurate. The costumes are entirely fantastical, the ships and tactics are ridiculous, and historical figures are portrayed horrendously. I think that media such as video games should teach real history and pirate culture in a fun manner, but these two games have failed at both. But did pirates sing sea shanties? Sea shanties, as we know them, did not exist during the golden age of sea rowing. The term shanty derives from the French chanteur, meaning to sing, and did not appear in the English vocabulary until the 19th century. However, we do know that sailors and pirates sung rudimentary work songs during the 1600s, though few examples survive to this day. These chants were incredibly simple, and only really meant to accompany hard and monotonous tasks such as rowing or working the capstan. Once again, Stevenson's Treasure Island surprises us with its accurate depiction of pirates, when the crew of the Hispaniola sing a chant to accompany the raising of the anchor. The bosun sounded his pipe, and the crew began to man the capstan bars. "Now barbecue, tip us a stave," cried the envoys. "Aye aye mates," said Long John, and at once broke out in the air and words I knew so well. 15 men on a dead man's chest, and then the whole crew bore in chorus, "Yo ho ho," and a bottle of rum, and at the third ho, drove the capstan bars before them. There is evidence that the chant Yo ho was actually sung by sailors and pirates since at least the early 1700s. A passage in A General History of the Pirates reads, "When they came on board, they brought her under sail, by an expeditious method of cutting the cable. Walden, one of the pirates, telling the master, this yo-ho of heaving up the anchor was a needless trouble, when they designed to burn the ship. Think about pirates in a rowboat, and how they would have timed their oar strokes. With every yo they pull backwards, and every ho they pull forwards. Put it in your workout routine, lads." Another example of a 17th century sailor chant went as follows. First the bosun cried, "Haul, cat, haul," and the coxswain, "Give the boat more way for a dram of the bottle, who says amends, one and all." And then the crewmen, pulling all strongly together, "Veja, veja, 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 veja." There are several folk songs and ballads written in the 1600s that were later adapted as sea shanties, starting in the 1800s. These include Spanish Ladies and Maid of Amsterdam, but there is no substantial evidence pointing to them being used as work songs by pirates and sailors. Nonetheless, music played a huge part in a pirate's daily life. Life at sea could be pretty boring. Since pirates overcrowded their ships, most of the men were idle whilst the actual work was relegated to a small group of guys in rotation. Music was a way to kill the drudgery and bolster morale, and was played around the clock. Jacob de Bucquoy, a prisoner of the pirate Taylor, wrote that their musicians play such melodies that the days pass most agreeably. The rest of the video will be dedicated to discovering pirate music and musicians. What instruments were available to pirate musicians? Accordion music has long been associated with sailors and pirates. However, the accordion was not invented until the 19th century. Rather, pirate musicians had fiddles, harps, and pipes. The guitar was the favorite instrument of the Spanish balladeer, some of whom may have been forced aboard pirate ships. Trumpets and drums were the most popular, since they had practical usage outside of leisure. Trumpets were used to signal other ships and to gather attention. Dr. Henry Pittman was greeted by a blast of trumpets when welcomed aboard a friendly privateer. At Maracaibo, Henry Morgan mounted large drums in his gun ports to appear like cannons, in order to deceive the enemy of his full strength. So who were the pirate musicians? Neither buccaneers nor pirates offered them special compensation. Whilst they were exempted from fighting and drudgery, they were pretty much expected to play music all the time. The Code of Bart Roberts stated that the musicians have rest on the Sabbath day, but the other 6 days and nights, none without special favor. When Roberts' flagship was captured by the Navy, he had 2 musicians aboard, Nicholas Brattler and James White. Nicholas Brattler had been captured from the Cornwall galley near Calabar, and forced to sign the pirates' articles. Other musicians were less innocent. The trumpeter aboard the slave ship Hannibal was described as a most dissolute, wicked wretch. He fought a duel against the sergeant of Cape Corso Castle in Africa, and thrust the man through the belly. Later, the unnamed trumpeter turned to piracy in the Red Sea. Other captains turned the music up a notch. Lawrence de Graaf, a pirate that served under all colonial powers, was tall and blonde, came accompanied by an entire pirate orchestra of fiddlers, violins and trumpets. What kind of music did pirates play? Whatever was popular in the towns and taverns that they visited, or that the musician had been taught in. Spanish balladeers satired pompous fools, quite common in the colonies, and sang songs of love, both spurned and true. Shortly after the Buccaneer sacked Veracruz, the local musicians wrote a song about it. Today this song is known globally as La Bamba. French sailors were known to kill time by singing and composing songs. Many of these were humorous and made fun of their officers. Robert's crew once got so drunk that they started singing Spanish and French songs out of a Dutch prayer book. Music had other purposes than entertainment. Drums and trumpets were played during funerals at sea. After the body was dumped overboard, the pirates sent him off with a volley of muskets. One group of Caribbean mutineers used the words of a song, "Did not you promise me that you would marry me?" to signal their attack. Music was even played during battle to rile up the men. According to court documents, Bartholomew Robert had his fiddlers make music on the poop deck during battle. In battle, the fiddler and piper would stir the men's blood, and trumpeters would sound levees. After the battle was won, it was celebrated by cries of huzzah, guns firing, drums pounding, and trumpets blasting. Musicians also served a tactical purpose. Pirates preferred to take their enemy without a fight, and did everything to scare them into submission. Vaporing was a method where the crew got drunk and started dancing around, waving their swords and singing, whilst the trumpets blasted, drums rolled, and fiddlers played. In late June of 1720, Bart Roberts attacked the harbour of Trepassey in Newfoundland. His fleet entered with black flags flying, drums beating, and trumpets sounding. There were 22 vessels in the harbour, and all the crews jumped ship and fled ashore. The Buccaneers fought most of their battles on land. En route to their target, they marched with banners waving, drums pounding, and pipers whistling. The Kuna Indians were especially impressed by these foreign sounds and instruments, and Kuna children rang along to watch the piratical soldiers marching. Henry Jennings deployed his pirates in a similar fashion, with muskets, banners, and drummers, when he attacked the Spanish shipwrecks in Florida. These marching bands could also be used in deception by land. Filibusters once deceived the Spanish by pretending to be camped, sounding trumpets and firing guns. Meanwhile, their attack force sneaked through the terrain and seized the Spaniards from behind. Of course, musicians had mostly pleasant and amusing purposes. In Brazil, Woodes Rogers and his crew were invited to attend a Catholic procession. 2 trumpets and a hautboy led the half-drunk privateers, singing "Hey Boys, Up We Go," and all manner of noisy, paltry tunes. "Hey Boys, Up We Go" was a favorite song of the time, which described in a humorous way the tastes of the Puritans. So did pirates sing sea shanties? During the 17th century, sailors sang rudimentary work songs when performing hard and monotonous tasks, such as working the capstan. We know very little about these songs. However, music played a huge part in pirate culture. Their drummers, trumpeters, fiddlers, and violinists played music in battles and marches, and provided the boys with entertainment during the long hours of boredom at sea. Big thanks to my generous supporters over on Patreon: Cole Freer, Max Twick, 1660, Michael Jans, Rachel, Blunderbomb, Lockgar, and Dyer. If you want to support me monetarily, please check out the links to PayPal and Patreon in the description below. This is what helps me fund my research and make better videos. Otherwise, please give the video a like and a comment, so the algorithm will spread it to more potential viewers. And why not share it with a friend? Cheers.